Now let's look at the questions for the third wish. Look at number 1. It says part A, which means there's a second part. Question number 2 is part B. Those two questions go together. Number 1, part A, says, which statement identifies the theme of the short story? All this means is, what is the message of the story that you read? What do you think the message or the lesson learned was of the third wish? Look at those choices and decide which one you think it is. Question number 2 goes with question number 1. It says, part B, which detail from the text best supports the answer to part A? So you have to look at your answer for number 1 and find out which of those details under number 2 support or prove your answer to number 1. Which of those go together with number 1? Number 3 is another question that says part A. And if you look at number 4, it says part B. That means those two questions go together. Part A says, what is the meaning of contentment in paragraph 46? For this, you're going to have to go back in the story and look at paragraph 46. Read the sentence that has the word contentment and read the sentences around them and decide, what do you think contentment means? Once you do that, go to number 4, part B. It says, which section from the text best supports the answer to part A? So look at each of those parts from the story, those quotes from the story, and which of those prove your answer to number 3? Which of those contain information that can prove your answer to number 3? Then if you look at number 5 is a part A. How does Leda's character change throughout the story? So look at the letters A, B, C, and D and think about how Leda was at the beginning, how Leda was at the middle, and how Leda was at the end of the story, and see which answer best matches that. Now number 6 is part B. It goes with number 5. And it asks you which section from the text best supports the answer to part A. So you have to look at the answer that you gave for part A and see which answer choice under number 6 goes along with that part. Which one supports that part? If you don't find one that supports that part, then you maybe have the wrong answer and want to go back and look at number 5. Your answer to number 6 should match and go along with and prove your answer to number 5. Then moving on to 7. How does paragraph 7 contribute to the development of ideas in the text? So if you go back and look at the paragraph number 7, you need to look at how that helps develop the ideas in the text. This is the paragraph that comes, it says, on page 2, it's 2 paragraphs after number 5. 3 wishes he wants, the clever man. Well, I have yet to hear of the human being who made good use of his 3 wishes. They most end up worse off than they started. Take your 3 wishes. Then he flung 3 dead leaves in the air. Don't blame me if you spend the last wish in undoing the work of the other 2. So think about that paragraph and think about what the king said would happen and what ended up really happening. And then write your answer to how that paragraph affects the story. Now we have some discussion questions. The directions say to brainstorm your answers to the following questions in the space provided. Be prepared to share your original ideas in a class discussion. Now, these are your original ideas, a lot of them, so it's your opinion. But you want to use your text to support that opinion. So number 1 says, in your opinion, should Mr. Peters have used his last wish? If so, what do you think he should have wished for? This question has 2 parts, and so you need to answer both parts. Your first answer should say either, yes, I think Mr. Peters should have used his last wish, or no, I don't think he should have. Either way, you need to tell why. So yes, I think he should have used his last wish because, or no, I don't think he should have used his last wish because. And then if you think he should have, you need to tell what you think he should have wished for. Number 2 says again, in your opinion, did Mr. Peters make the right choice when he returned Leda to her swan form? Why or why not? So you would say either, yes, I think Mr. Peters made the right choice when he returned Leda to her swan form because, or no, I don't think Mr. Peters made the right choice when he returned Leda to her swan form because. That why or why not means you must add a because to your answer and explain exactly why you think that. Question number 3 says, in the context of the story, how are we changed by love? How did Mr. Peters' love for Leda influence the decisions he made throughout the story? Cite evidence from this text, your own experience, and other literature, art, or history in your answer. So here you want to think about the story and how Mr. Peters' love for Leda changed what he did, but also in general, how are people changed by love? Do you have examples of how people have been changed by love? And then how was Mr. Peters' love, how did that affect what he did when it came to Leda? Question number 4 says, what is the relationship between humans and nature? How does Mr. Peters' relationship with nature change throughout the story? Again, this is just about what you think and what you have noticed. What do you notice about the relation between people and nature? And how did Mr. Peters' relationship with nature change? How did the way he interacted with nature change throughout the story?